we only want to go over the gitignore file. What does gitignore do? And also create a secrets folder and have any secret key you want in that secrets folder. That way, that secrets folder, the contents of it doesn't get pushed to GitHub. So anything you want to ignore, including when you get into group projects, the first thing you want to ignore is that DS store, right? You don't want that DS store to be in projects because that's like one of the biggest parts of merge conflicts. You'll see merge conflicts, you'll get comfortable with fixing merge conflicts. Even if you're not in the beginning, you will get comfortable with fixing merge conflicts. But the better you could avoid merge conflicts, and again, group projects will be introduced into Unit 4. So really being attentive to what the gitignore has. Like the minute you have your group project, the first thing you want to do is have that gitignore file. Anything you want to ignore, when I say ignore, that you do not want to push to GitHub, you add to the .ignore file, okay? So we have Luba's computer here. Right now, we do not have a gitignore file. Let's confirm if we do have a gitignore file. I will go over to terminal. In Luba's project, I did an ls to see the contents of the project. Anybody remember how to see hidden files in a folder? How do we see files in a folder? ls, right? So if you want to see hidden files, when I say hidden files, it starts with a dot. If the file starts with a dot, automatically it becomes hidden. So to see hidden files, we do ls, anybody? -a, right? So ls-a will show us the hidden files. Right now, we'll see all hidden files with dots there. We see a .get. .get is the get history, right? That project has a get history, so it has a .get in there. If we were to erase, like for some reason, Luba says, I removed my gitignore, or rather, I added a gitignore, but now I want to delete all my history on GitHub. I want to start my history from scratch. You could delete the .get there. If you delete the .get, it will delete the get history, the get commits, everything will be gone. And at that point, you could go to your repo, you could delete it, and push again from scratch, okay? There's a reason why files are hidden. That way you don't accidentally do things that you not intentionally want to do, right? So you really have to like, hey, I want to see the exposed files, and I want to do something with that exposed file. One of the files we see already is that .ds store. So before we do anything else, we'll delete that. And if you do have a .ds store in your project, you could remove it by rm-rf.ds store. I type in ds and I will autocomplete by tabbing. Clicking on the tab button will autocomplete. At this point, I could delete the ds store and do an ls-a again. And it's gone, right? So the ds store now is removed, okay? Yes? The DS store is created by the Mac operating system. It's local to you by default, exactly. By default to you, each machine is different.
So when it's created, but you don't need this package?
Not to get pushed to GitHub, right? Locally, that's fine, but not to get pushed to GitHub.
So when we delete it locally before we push it?
Exactly.
Do
And
we return it back this DS? Like
it will be local, but it won't be added to GitHub. It deletes the directory locally. It will get created as needed again locally, but it won't get added to our repo. It gets created by the operating system automatically when it's needed. When it's needed, we don't know when it's needed. Okay?
Well, why don't we want to push it?
Because you could push it if you're working on a personal project, that's fine. But if you're working with multiple people, everybody has a different DS store, there'll be merge conflicts there. Because everybody's file is different. And there's no reason to push that particular file up to GitHub. Okay? All right, so the next step is we do not have a .gitignore here, right? We do not have a .gitignore. We could create one locally, that's fine. I could simply create a local gitignore, but GitHub has a template. GitHub has a template that we could use. So we'll go to GitHub, we'll get that template added to your repository, and we'll pull the changes down. More than one, as long as it's inside the secrets folder, that all the contents will be ignored. Luba? I'm sorry, Yulia? I have the secrets folder, which we'll create. We do not have it yet. We'll create a secrets folder. Anything you want to ignore, you'll have inside that secrets folder.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I'm just trying to understand what I have. Like I have similar, like 1 dot, 2 dot. What is that?
Those are files we're not exactly concerned about right now. That's like system files.
Store we should delete for now.
Yes, if you have a DS store, delete it. Okay. Next step is to get a gitignore file. Again, I could have simply said touch.gitignore, but that will be empty. We don't want it to be empty. There's a Swift template gitignore file that we'll use from GitHub. It gets us started with the basic requirements of a Swift project or Xcode project that you want to ignore files from. So we'll use that template. Cool. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see. Do we have anything to commit here? I'll do a get status. I'll do a get add. Clear so that we don't see too much clutter here. And I will do a get commit. Removed DS store. And I will pull, make sure there's nothing from the remote that I need. Everything is up to date. At this point, I will push. Great. The next part, we need to confirm that the DS store itself, because it may have been pushed already to GitHub. It may have been pushed already to GitHub. So now we want to go to GitHub and review this. This is not the lab. Am I in the right place, Luba? Let's go back to your repositories. It's Fortnite, right? Okay, so we're in Luba's project. Luba has a good README here, very good. Next step, like put some code in there, like a code snippet or something. Great, so let's see. Don't have the DS store here, so that's fine for now. If you do have the DS store, you could simply delete it on GitHub, but there's no DS store here that I could see. Great. So at this point, we want, can everybody see in the back? I'm sorry?
To find the story in GitHub, we need to go through.
It should be at the top level.
Okay.
And there's nothing there. Exactly. Okay, so let's zoom out here a little bit. Okay, so I want to create a file called .gitignore. To create a file, I'll simply go, do we all see the create new file button? Do we see the create new file button? It's right to the left of clone or download. Yes? People without a gitignore? Okay, so click on the create new file. And start off by typing .gitignore. It's right here. The minute GitHub sees .gitignore, it gives you a template of choices to use. GitHub gives you a template of choices to use. And those template of choices is right here. It tells you choose .gitignore. Which language are you after, right? So there's languages there, there's ActionScript, Android, right? There's a certain amount of gitignore files that those languages are accustomed of using. So the common ignored files are in those languages. We'll simply search for Swift. We'll select Swift. And the Swift template, this is what it looks like, okay? You could also just search for the Swift template on Google itself. But here we have the Swift template of all the ignore files that's common here. CocoaPods, when you get into CocoaPods, we'll talk about what, it's up to you and your team, what you want to add here. But what we want to ignore the DS store. So .ds store, I'm at the bottom of the file. Whatever you want to ignore, you add to the .gitignore file. Okay? And the next folder we want to ignore, we'll have a folder in our Xcode called secrets. And the / here denotes that everything in the secrets folder I want to ignore. So everything in that secrets folder will be ignored. So I could have a secret Swift file, I could have other APIs file, whatever it is in that secrets file will be ignored. Okay. At this point, I will commit. So added gitignore file and commit. Okay, so here I have my .ignore file. That's great. I will now go over to terminal. And do a get pull. I've had changes. Here I have one file changed, right? One file changed, and the created file is .gitignore. At this point, I could confirm that I do have the gitignore. What's the command again? ls-a shows us the hidden files. And here I do have my .gitignore file, okay? If you want to open the .ignore file, you could simply say open.getignore. If you want to see the contents of it, you could simply from terminal say open.getignore, press enter, and it will open up the file for you. Let me zoom that in here. And this is the exact file we just modified. Indeed, we do have the .dstore, and we have the secrets folder, okay? Perfect. So now we could go to Xcode, create our secrets folder, and edit the project as needed in order to hide that API key. Any questions so far? If you have an API key and you have a public repository, you should hide your key. You could do it locally, but you need, I would recommend, if you're doing it locally, to search for the template and create the file and then put the template in that file, the contents of the template in that file. But it's easier to just get it from GitHub, because that's probably updated more than the one you'd probably find on Google. Cool? All right. Yes, sir.
So the question I have kind of goes to, if you accidentally upload your API key and then you add to the gitignore after the fact, like we had the instructions to do last time, isn't the API key still available if you browse through the commit?
If you browse through it, it's definitely available. What you could do, you could either do one of two things. If it's an early thing you did, you could simply delete your get history and then start from scratch. Ideally, that would be the place to go.
That's probably the best option.
Exactly. Get rid of the whole history file.
Okay. If you don't start with, like, when you're starting a project, you know you have an API key. The best practice would be to just set up that door and secret. Exactly. And with more experience, you know exactly what you need to do. Go with that. Like set up your files, what you need to hide, and all that stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. But most likely, if you're on a team, your repository is private. So at that point, it might not be even ignored, the API keys, because it's a private repo. You only want to do that if it's not a private repo, it's public for public eyes. But if it's a team, there's no reason to hide that API key.
No reason whatsoever.
Exactly. Does that make sense? Because it's a private repository, whoever is on the team only has access to it.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It's almost like if it's your personal project, it's private, no reason to hide it. Okay? But if it's on a public repository, definitely. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, so just deleting the get history, like for example, Luba here would get rid of all the history. So nobody could like browse and see your stuff. But going forward, it won't be seen in the commit. All right, so now we are going to our Xcode project. In our Xcode project, I'll click on my top level project here. I'll right click on it. I'll create a new group. A new folder. New group is a folder. It creates a new folder. So I'll go ahead and create a new group. And what am I naming that group? Secrets, right? So I'll go ahead and call it secrets. Let's zoom in here so we see what's going on. So I call it secrets, same as what we said in gitignore. So gitignore looks for that folder. It sees that folder, it does not push that folder to GitHub. Okay, now in the secrets folder, I'll right click on it, create a new file. it will be a Swift file. This is a Swift file. We'll call it secrets here. We could call that file anything we want. It's up to us here, but I'll call it secrets. Create it. And this is our Swift file. In our Swift file, we'll have a struct secret key, and we'll have a static constant called API key. You only have one API key, right, Luba? You only have one API key. There's no secret key or anything. It's just one key. Header, that could be exposed, exactly. So here we have a secret key. In Luba's case, we're refactoring what her code looks like. So Luba now has one API client, right, Luba? Let's see, what's this guy doing? Okay, so there's no key exposed here. Okay, I see you renamed this image API client. That okay. So this is your API key, right, Luba?
It's a wrong name.
No, that's fine. I thought I was like an API client, so I was looking for a next call there. But it's just like an extension for UI image, so I'd keep it as UI image plus extension. Okay, so this is your key, correct? So we'll take this out, and we'll replace this with secret key dot API key. Okay, we'll build to make sure we have no errors, and we'll go over to our secrets file and paste your secret key in there. Build again, make sure we have no errors. We'll run the app to make sure it still runs as intended. You're getting an early access demo to Luba's awesome Fortnite app here. And still works as normal, correct, Luba? All right, great. So this is good. We will commit any changes we have. So get status here. As you see, there's no sign of the secrets.swift. It doesn't exist, right? It's as if GitHub does not know about it, doesn't see the change, because it's in the .ignore file. But there's changes on your items API client and the project itself. So we'll just add everything here. We'll put a commit message, added secrets, or added secrets folder. And we'll do a get. Did we do anything on? I'll just pull to see if we have anything. Nothing here. So I'll push the changes up, and we'll go over to the repo to make sure everything is good. Go over to the repo, refresh. So here we do not have any secrets folder. In our network services, I will go to the API client. In our API client, we no longer have our exposed key. The way we access our key is the secret key.api key. Okay? So as you were saying, Greg, at this point, earlier than later, you just delete your history and you don't have that key exposed anymore. Okay?
Could they do anything with like that info right there? Because that kind of gives the class.
Nah, it's not on there at all.
Okay.
Yeah, even if it says secret key, you could change it from secret key to whatever, like key dot whatever.
Gotcha.
Like you don't have to say secret, right?
Tell them that it's a secret.
Exactly. So that's like totally fine there. You could just simply say API key dot whatever. Cool? Yeah, exactly. So any questions? This was a good example because we did it after the fact to show us like after the fact what's going on. Okay, so after the fact we did that, and that was the basic intention there. Okay, so if there's no more questions, I will stop the lecture here.
No, we can rename the file.
Oh, right. Luba wants to rename her repository. Luba always wants something else, right? This is Luba. But I need your password. Very soon. Maybe not. We'll see. So Luba wants to rename her repository. Currently, her repository is called Unit 3 Personal Project Fortnite. Not ideal, right? Because the project should be your personal project. an employer looking at this, they're like, okay, still a next assignment, right? But calling it like Fortnite or whatever would be better. So she wants to rename her repository. So we'll go edit, settings. We go to settings. Let me go back here. Do we all see Insights settings here at the top? So I want to rename my repository. I go to settings. Anything you want to do as far as like changing your repository, you go to settings. If you want to make it private, you go to settings. You want to change the name, you want to delete, that's where you go, settings. So here in the repository name, it's called Unit 3 Personal Project Fortnite. So I simply want to remove that Unit 3 Personal Project here, Fortnite, okay? Github checks to see if it's unique, meaning if there's a next project that's already called Fortnite on your repositories. It's not, so it's fine. So here I just click on rename, and beautiful, this is nice right now, right? So Luba has Fortnite as her project, and let's go to see her repositories here. Great, great, great. So Luba later will remove the Swift UI demo from her pins here, and then she'll add Fortnite here, right? So those pins gets like more like marketable, right? Cool? So always try to keep your pins updated with your most latest project, your most passionate project, the project you really like, the project you want to show people. The first time people come on your website or whatever, your repo, that's what they see. Cool? Any other questions? Great.
So this is the pins and you put your...
Yeah, so you could go to customize pins here and figure out which ones you want to add, remove, etc. Cool? So that you could add Fortnite, remove the next one, that kind of thing. Cool? Perfect. Actually, that's not even pins. You have no pins, actually. You have no pins. That's why you have 6 remaining. So let's see, real time. What do you want here? You want Fortnite for sure. What else you want? Get again. Lab questions. What do you want? My first. All right, my first. Yeah, avoid having like Pursuit Core iOS Unit 2 Assignment 2 as a pin. Like really try to like schedule is that your own thing? Shopping list, is that your thing? Song search bar, okay. Sounds very proud of this one. I'll just put Swift UI demo there. Okay. Swift UI is like the hot thing. Cool, so save pins. And now those are your pins here. So you have 2 more pins you could add. So as you keep working on projects, especially in Unit 4, you'll have some nice big projects there. You could, and your own personal projects, right? So at the end of the day, your personal projects carries more weight than something you worked on like on an assignment. All right. You see customize pins here? So you click on customize pins and you have 6 pins in all. And here it tells us we have 2 remaining. Cool? Great. So we'll stop here. Cool. Great.